All right, welcome to the Journey 2020. I'm Charles Morris, happy to be with you here on this Monday. We're getting ready. Well, you should be in the holiday spirit. Right about now we're that close to Christmas, and so just want to say thank you for joining us here.
Get down low.
Appreciate you here. I'm Charles Morris, happy to be here with you on Journey 2020. And a few weeks ago, I had my annual event that took place at my church. Actually, that was my first time having it at my church. The past few years, I've had it at Carter Tabernacle. And it was a blessed event, both Friday and Saturday. And so when you put something together like that, you're always a little nervous, and there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. And quite a few things that are taking place that are never seen, but that's just all part of it. And anybody that does anything like any type of event, no matter what level it is, you're always dealing with what comes with it, and that's not a good or bad. That's just the nature of what it is. And so, starting the What's My Anti-Drug Youth Summit, which was really about 16 years ago. If I've told the story, it started with a gentleman by the name of Bob Pickerel. And Bob, let me make sure I get this right. Bob was under Martinez, who had come in behind Linda Chapin, who was called the Orange County chairman at the time. And we was having some major problems here in Central Florida with the heroin overdose that we was leading the country. And Bob was named the drug czar, and to try to deal with some of the issues and the problems. And so that's how it ended up being the What's My Anti-Drug, because that was Bob's biggest thing, and asking kids, what's your anti-drug? There are so many things that you can do other than drugs. So what is your anti-drug? And so with Bob and his passion, and I used to wear this band. I wore it for years, and the band was a red band, and it said, "What's your anti-drug?" And I can even remember for years, I would like the day after Christmas, I would go up to New York. I did that for about like 12 years. And day after Christmas. And I would come back like a couple of days after New Year's, and I would have my band on. I had that band on, and my friend in New York was, why are you wearing that band? And it was just such a passion for him, and just trying to say and to get the message out, which whatever way, however you can, to let kids know that there's other things that you can do other than drugs. And with the problem that we had here in the Central Florida area, these kids, 17, 18, 19 years old, 20 on up, that was just dying from heroin, and it was really a major problem. They had the rave parties downtown, and I think they still go on, so it was a major problem. And so that's how all of that got started. And so as my 15th year come around, a few years ago, I added the gospel team Idol, and it started out something different, but it's now kind of in the realm of what I want it to be. And it's really, I don't consider it really a competition. That's really not why I do it. I really like to do it in the sense of just bringing people together and want it to be a night of worship and praise. Some of us, we get caught up in the first, second, and third place, but that's really not what it's about. And the feedback and the energy that's in the room is just what you really want it to be. And so I was just out one day with a friend of mine. He told me to come. Well, I've been knowing Greg for a very long time. I've been working with him. And so he told me to come and see him. And so I did. So I looked up, and there were some kids playing. It was right in the time that I was looking for some kids to take part in the gospel teen Idol. And so I went up to one of the kids, and I say, who's the parent? And so they pointed at Miss Gordon. I said, Miss Gordon, I introduced myself. I said, I saw your band. I'm doing this event, and I want to know if you would bring your kids and would let them participate. So she gave me her card, and so a little time went by, and I called, and she said, let me check my schedule, and I get back to you. So I'm calling, doing my thing, trying to put stuff together, and I watched them play. And so it was like maybe 3, 4, 5 of us. I was like, this is like perfect. And they're singing gospel music. I was like, what is better than that? And so time went by, and my phone rang. And she said, hi, I'm Miss Gordon. You know, you gave me, and I told you that I would get back to you when I check the schedule. And by the way, they're available. I was like, thank you, bless you, you know, and to say all of that, I have a husband here tonight, and Robert, right?
Right.
Robert Gordon. And I just want to say thank you so very much for blessing us. And how are you doing?
Doing fine. Thank you for allowing me to have an opportunity to share this event with you in this moment as well. Doing great, man. It's the holiday season. It's the best time. Listen, from Thanksgiving to Christmas, that's my season.
Okay.
That's my season. It seems like everybody lighten up a little bit. They relax a little bit. They seem to be a little bit more easier to get along with, and it's just a good time. Family coming together, good food, and, it's a great time for me.
Well, how was your Thanksgiving?
Good.
Okay.
It was really good. Very busy, so Thanksgiving is kind of like, oh, thank God I don't have to get up and take the kids to school. And,
Well, we're going to talk about that, but let's back up, because I'm sitting here. This is my first time meeting you.
Okay.
Because I had talked with your wife and met her, and because she brought the kids to the event, and so I had talked with her on the phone, about the bio and the pictures and so on and so forth. And so we're sitting here talking, and you're from Philly.
Yeah.
So you got to be a Dr. J fan. I know you got to know.
Yeah, I used to go see him play. And I'm from like above Germantown, which they call West Oak Lane. It's in between. It's in between Germantown and Chestnut Hill, which is kind of on the outskirts. But yeah, man, I was a Philly guy, man.
All right. So are you a baseball fan as well?
Not so much, because the Phillies never did have a really good team, so I'm a Yankees fan, to be honest with you. I love the Yankees, and they seem to be doing very well, and they got some good people for next year.
Well, I mean, yeah, because you saw what he did last week.
They stole the guy from Miami, man.
No. He's getting in trouble because of that, because every time the Marlins get good, they have a fire sale. So I don't know what that's about, but it's just interesting that. And so that's the real talk among baseball now, is that they're gonna, I don't know what you can do about that, because they make their money, but they make their money. So Stanton, right? This is Stanton, right?
Stanton is the guy,
right? And so he had a magnificent year, and now next year he's gonna be with the Yankees, and my mother, who was probably one of the biggest sports fans in the world, who loved the Dallas Cowboys back in the day when it was Roger Staubach and Tom Landry and Too Tall Jones and Hollywood Henderson and Tony Dorsett and Calvin Hill and all those guys, Randy White, and she loved her Yankees. She loved Reggie Jackson, and so on and so forth. And she loved it. Tell you a funny story. I want to talk about your kids and everything, but this is a true story. My mother was a serious sports fan. She was a serious sports fan. So she was sitting there, and we was watching the Bulls play. And I saw the look on her face, because I said, Mom, like, what's wrong? Oh, that Michael Jordan. I said, you don't like Michael? No, I don't like Michael. I said, why? This is her expression. He act like his poop don't stink. All right, I'm saying, so I'm sitting there. So I said, Mom, can he play? He all right. So I'm laughing, right?
Yeah,
So I'm like,
yeah.
so I said, so what? Well, Oscar Robertson and Dr. J was my players, And I'm like, okay, well, all right. But that's the fun. I mean, I love telling that story, and that she was, cause she knows her sports, right?
Yeah.
But she just, he all right. I was like, oh, okay, all right. But between the Yankees, the Dallas Cowboys, the 76ers, and she loved her Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
She loved the Knicks from back in the day.
Back in the day, Willis Reed. Mm-hmm.
Willis Reed and
Clyde Frazier and all those guys.
Frazier's like one of my favorite players.
Yeah.
And I had a chance to meet Frazier, and I had a chance to meet Earl the Pearl. And it was an interesting conversation that I had with Earl the Pearl.
Yeah, I loved him.
Right.
He was awesome.
I mean, kids now know nothing about Earl the Pearl, and the fact that Walt Frazier actually was probably the master, probably the best player that I've seen that controlled both ends of the court, defensively and offensively, because he had a strong enough game to be an effective player offensively. But some of the things that he used to do defensively was just a gift, and he was very masterful at that. But I had a conversation with Earl the Pearl about when he first left Baltimore, the Bullets, to go over to play with Clyde,
Mm-hmm.
and he said when he first got there, he said that Walt Frazier would give him the ball with only about 4 or 5 seconds left on the shot clock.
Okay.
So whatever that was, so I'm just repeating what he said. He just said, well, so I just kind of started missing the ball when he started throwing to it. And he said it only lasted a very short time, but after that, he said it clicked, and you saw what they did, but it was just funny, and then to hear what Walt Frazier said was when he was talking, he didn't down Jordan, but he was, in his own words, he was saying, I was just as effective as Jordan. And I couldn't argue with him. He didn't say it directly, but he was a kind of quote that he said that was, because he was, being Walt Frazier, because he was this quiet guy. He wasn't flashy, but he was a great player, and they don't talk about him enough for as great as he was, But that was my 2 encounters that I had with Walt Frazier and Earl the Pearl. Two guys that you watch when you were a little kid, never know that one day you're going to be standing in front of them and having a conversation, awesome. And blah blah blah. And they were really nice guys, and so on and so forth. But let's get back to you. Now you're from Philly.
Yeah.
How did you end up? And I'm guessing you in music.
Well,
I'm guessing
sort of kind of. I was more so in management.
Okay.
Of the music end. When I was in Philly, I was on the board for Sweet Rain Records, and then I managed one of the gospel singers, Bruce Parham, for a while, and so that was my kind of foot being dabbling into the gospel music industry. But when I came to Florida, it wasn't on my mind to be in that area. I came to Florida really just to set up a ministry. And
so, well, tell me about how did you get into the ministry? So, let's talk about that. How did you get into the ministry?
I got into the ministry. I was in my early 20s, and out there in the world doing a lot of different things. And when they first opened up the first casino in Atlantic City, we was down there, trying to hustle and do some things around the casino. And one morning I woke up and I said, you know what, I'm tired of ducking and dodging and these type of things, because I was raised in the church.
Right.
But I said once I went to college, I wasn't going to go to church no more. I was done with it. So I stayed. When I graduated from college, I just stayed out there hanging around. But I went to church and started listening at the gospel, man, and the word got a hold of me, man, and so I started working in the church trying to help my pastor do whatever he was trying to do. So that's kind of how I got started with the ministry.
It's funny that I find most of the time that when we have a story to tell, and a lot of times, we talk about being out there in the world, and like, for an example, like your face expression changed a little bit, right? But that's part of it, part of it is, that's it. And that's the testimony, and as we live our lives, the challenge of each moment is what it is. Each moment is a challenge. Each heartbeat is a challenge. It's not a clear, straight walk. And it's hard for a lot of people to understand that. Just because you're in the pulpit doesn't mean that you're not tempted. Just because you're in the pulpit doesn't mean that something is not pulling you, And for us who want to look, because as once you mention that you into the word, everything changes. People look at you different. You can't make a mistake. You put on this pedestal that you can't fail. You can't lean to the left. You can't lean to the right. You can't do this. You can't do that. And the reality of it is that you're an average person who's just conscious of certain things, and and is trying to get people to understand what that means, and it's just amazing sometimes people's perception of what that means and what it's supposed to mean or what it is,
What I found when I first got into the church, I started ushering. Then I left that and I went and helped out with whatever was going on, cutting the grass, and then I helped clean up. Then I got into the choir and I started singing. Then I became the head of the choir and I organized them. Then I became a trustee. I worked in that area. And then I became a deacon. I worked in that area. So I worked in just about every area of the church, and then God called me into the ministry. But what I found was being thrust into the role of a leader of a church or a pastor or bishop. The experience that I had coming out of the world, I believe, prepared me better to face the challenges that you're going to face when you get into the pastorate. And I think a lot of guys, when they get called to the ministry and they get placed in that position where they're in leadership and people are working along with their vision, if they hadn't had that experience in the world, I think that they are a little vulnerable to some of the pressures of the ministry. And when you've been out there and you slept around and you've been with a lot of different people and stuff, you kind of get that out of your system. So when you come in for God, you're serious. You're a little bit more serious about what you're supposed to do. And then if you take a guy that, like for me, when I was in high school, I was into sports. I did everything. I lettered, and I was all-star and all that stuff. I played ball in college, so I had gotten accustomed to the pressures of peer pressures and all that stuff. But you take a guy that get called and set into a pastorate, and he never had attention on him. He never had his choice of dates. He never had people coming at him. Then he loses control because he hadn't been prepared. All of a sudden, women are coming at him, and he'd never had that before in his life. And sometime, my God, I don't know how to handle this. I mean, you might put up a good fight for maybe 2 or 3 months, but eventually the pressures will wear you down if you hadn't had experience. That's just from my standpoint. And so I would say the best teacher is experience.
But see, now, even though we came here to talk about, but now we're on to something that I think that's important, because I find in life, which I think is a challenge for parents, especially mothers, that's what life is. Life is experience for you to go through what you need to go through and mature and find out what life is. And I find that a lot of times parents don't want their kids to go through life and experience what they're supposed to go through. They try to control something that they cannot control. They try to put their children or their child in a situation in which they can't go through something which isn't like impossible, and they try to prevent the inevitable. Now, as a person who understands that in order for you to learn, you have to go through it. That's the best teacher in life.
You got to go.
You know, so life is getting your heart broken.
Absolutely.
Life is dealing with the tears and what that is. How else you gonna learn? You know, so yeah, who wants to go through a heartbreak? But who hasn't gone through a heartbreak? Who hasn't been told no? Who hasn't been left there going, but I love you? Who hasn't gone through that?
Yeah.
You know, and so you can say what you need to say and try to influence them in a manner in which you give them the foundation. But I just think sometimes I just look at parents and you just sit there shaking your head and you're going, but that's what they supposed to go through, you know? And so even though you love them, yes, but that's part of life. You know, how else you gonna learn? You know, that's the best part of it.
Yes,
you know, if you go through something and if you didn't learn something, that's the sad part. You know, who's been saying that forever? I mean, that's just a rule of life. If you didn't learn anything, then what was the use of you going through it? You know, so you don't make that mistake again. You know?
And you know what? Your preparation that God takes you through, you don't understand it until you've been delivered. But then you run into some situations down the road. You say, "Oh, I see why God,
Right.
you know, brought me through that way. Because now I'm faced with a critical situation that I've experienced myself. So I'm better able to deal with it. If you've been a drunk and God has delivered you, you can minister to an alcoholic."
Right.
And that's basically what I'm saying is, so all of the and brokenness is what God gonna break you now, Doc. If you want to be used, you got to be broken. When he had the multitude, he couldn't feed them till he broke the bread. When he broke the bread, he had enough for everybody. So he does that for us. He breaks us so that we can serve more people. He gets us out of us. And he put himself in where we was, and then he began to use us in that manner, man.
But see, what you just said, a lot of people don't understand that. Because when you enter the world, you see the world as a Lexus. You see the world, the neighborhood that you live in. Your definition is your bank account. I've told this story, and I don't know where it came from, honestly. I don't know where it came from, but when I was in college was when they started that whole, designer jean thing and stuff like that. That's when it was like really popular, and they used to wear all the designer shirts, and Ralph Lauren and Gucci and all this other stuff. And to me, that was really weird because to this day, I still don't understand that, So what I used to do is, I've told this story, was that my sister was a seamstress. So I remember going to Marshall's, so you would go get the designer, for like really cheap prices and stuff like that. So we used to go and shop at Marshall's, and I would have my jeans, but I would cut their name off. And I always put my name on my back pocket or put it on the lower part of the pants leg. And so my name would be on it because I didn't get why I was trying to wear somebody else's name. I didn't, today I still don't understand that, that I need somebody else's name to say who I am,
Exactly.
So I'm like, okay, I need to wear this guy's name to identify myself. And I can remember because I used to do a youth summit, a television show. I did it for 9 years when I worked for Orange TV. So I did a monthly summit. So every month I did a summit for a period of like 9 or 10 years. And we covered everything and had a panel and had the school board on there, the sheriff department, the police department, everybody, the city commissioners, the county commissioners, everybody used to come on the show. And I remember doing this show on this topic, and And I will always remember this. And what I did was I set an example that I had 2 shirts. Okay. And what I said was, I said, this shirt right here is the exact same thing as this shirt, except this one does not have the designer name on it, but it's the same shirt. I said, now this shirt costs $50. This shirt costs $20. Which shirt would you buy? Do you know I had to spend at least 20, 25 minutes to explain it over and over again? But they was like,
Get out of here.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
And it's the same shirt, okay? Except this one does not have the designer name on it. This one is just the shirt. And they was sitting there like this, $20, $50. Which shirt would you buy? And even the adults in the room. And I'm like, really? People, it's the same shirt.
They missed that part.
And they were sitting there like, and they were confused. And I'm like, huh? And that just tells you about how we're brainwashed and identifying ourselves and who we are, and how we try to uplift ourselves in a manner of a trophy, how we idolize material, and that we need this to say that I need to feel good about myself.
That's right.
You know, and it's that just to this
You're
day.
absolutely correct.
That to this day, that still blows my mind. Even the adults in the room, and that was probably maybe about 50 people in the room, at least 50 or more. And there was, it was kids, and probably about out of the 50, maybe 12 adults, maybe, and nobody really caught on to just say, even, I never really got an answer in that sense. I just talked around it, talked about it, but nobody ever, I never did get one kid or parent to really step up and say, yeah, and it's a scary thing.
Isn't that scary?
And it kind of says, for example, why Trump is the president of the United States.
Exactly.
It kind of says why he is our president. It's that mindset, it's that understanding for a person who knows absolutely, he don't know who God is whatsoever. He just does not. And every time he opens his mouth, you know that. But that's the difference. That's a different show. So, but in your ministry, so I'm asking, okay, how did you come to Florida?
Okay, well, I was pastoring in Philadelphia and New Jersey. I was pastoring 2 churches, and I was preaching in Philadelphia at 8 and Jersey at 11 because it was right across the bridge, the Ben Franklin Bridge. And I had TV ministry going, radio ministry going, and God kept dealing with me about the type of ministry that he wanted me to do, and that was planning churches and doing primarily community work. The churches that I was involved with were traditional Baptist churches, almost 100 years old, so they were steeped in tradition. And when you start talking about bringing people in that's off the corners and streets, they had a little problem with that. And that became a conflict in the ministry, because my ministry was reaching out and getting the downtrodden people, but they didn't want to sit beside them with their designer stuff on, and they didn't want to be bothered with them. Matter of fact, we was in a service one night, and this guy come in. You could tell he's not a church guy. He come in with his hat on backwards, but he came in and he sit down at the front of the church.
Oh, wow.
And he was ready to hear the word.
Right.
And some of the members came and said, "You can't sit up here.
Really?
These are officer seats."
Wow, it's funny. My pastor was just talking about that last week.
And the guy, they harassed the guy, so he left. So I was running into that kind of conflict.
Wow.
And I'm like, Lord, you know, if the churches is not going to embrace what you're doing in me right now, what you want me to do? What you want me to do? Where you want me to go? I know. I'm not going to fight with these folks. So we went to California. We were just traveling, trying to see where God wanted us. We went to Miami, and when we came here, it seems like God said, "This is it."
Okay.
So now, I bought a house in Akoi, and we didn't move immediately. I rented the house out, and then God said, "Now it's time." So we moved. I sold the house I had bought initially, made $100,000 on it, never lived in it.
Wow.
And bought another house in Winter Garden. We moved down, but I still didn't leave the ministry because I didn't feel the leadership was strong enough, you know, because I had been there so long. So my family was in Florida. I was living here, but I was flying back to Philadelphia twice a week, pastoring the 2 churches.
Oh, wow.
And I did it for 3 years. And the 3rd year I was doing it, God said, "Now I want you to, you know, let your roots down in Florida." So we started to work in Washington Shores.
Okay.
Just me, my wife, and kids. And we started a food program, clothing program, and started ministering to the community. And then God just started doing some miraculous stuff. Mr. Morris, He's opened so many doors and made so many ways. We've led so many people to Christ, and that's really what I was trying to do: go out on the corners and in the highways and the hedges and get the downtrodden, the people that everybody forgot about, the people that don't nobody want to deal with, the people that can't pay you back, the people that can't do anything for you. And Lord, we started leading them folks to Christ, man, and God was just working in a marvelous way. And then I got to tell this story briefly.
Okay, no.
We went to a community event. I was being honored for the community work that we were doing in the community.
Okay.
At the event, they honored like 2 or 3 other bishops, and so I kept looking at this guy. I said, "I know this guy from somewhere." And so when he got up and he started talking, he says, "My name is Bishop Carroll Johnson, and I'm from Baltimore, but I moved here in 2005. I said, "That's where I know him, from Baltimore." I used to preach at his church.
Okay.
But I hadn't seen him in about 10 or 15 years.
Okay.
Maybe longer, maybe about 20 years. And so we connected back. He came here the same time I did. He started a church the same time I did. So we in the same city for 10 years. He didn't know I was here. I didn't know he was there.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, "What you doing, man?" He said, "Man, I'm trying to get this TV station off the ground, and trying to get this radio station off the ground, and so forth and so on." I said, "That's coincidental. My wife just graduated, and she got a degree in digital media. She can help you out." He said, "Oh man, thanks God. Tell her to come on over." So she fit a spot that he really needed somebody to come in and edit his stuff. So when she got involved, and some things happened where some of the people that was there, they got taken away, and he said, "Man, I really need some help." I said, "What do you need, man? I'll help you." He said, "Man, I really need somebody to help me with the day-to-day operations and so forth and so on." So we went into partnership.
Okay.
So now I done went from feeding and clothing and helping people with jobs and referrals for housing and drugs and all of that stuff to now having a platform where I'm preaching worldwide.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I come here, I don't know nobody, I don't have no family here.
Mm-hmm.
We just came here without any assistance whatsoever. And that's how God has been blessing. So now in the ministry, getting to the kids, I couldn't afford a musician.
Mm-hmm.
The kids were small at that time, and so I said to the wife, I said, let's invest some money and send the kids to music school and eventually, 2 or 3 years, maybe they'll be good enough to play in the service.
Right.
And so we sent them to the School of Rock down at John Young and I-4. And when they was there, when they was small, they was back there playing one day, and Sydney Lauper walks in, and she heard them play, and she came back and she was just amazed. I mean, Lexi, the one that played the bass, the big bass she got, well, the bass was bigger than her at that time. You couldn't see her playing the bass, but she was just amazed at the music that they had put together themselves, and she took a liking to them. So she autographed the guitars and all. Man, that just rung their bell. So they got really serious about what they were doing.
Oh, okay.
My daughter Cassidy, the one that plays the keyboards, she plays about 15 different instruments.
Oh, wow.
So she writes and composes. She does all of the garage band and all of that stuff. So we sent some of her stuff to Nashville, to Sony. They bid on it. And so we all went up to Nashville and met with the A&R guy, and we sat down, and he said, I like this stuff, man. Y'all bang some more stuff out. And then he says, you know, you're gonna have to come out of school. We'll get you a tutorer, and we're gonna go into the studio and do some stuff, and then we're gonna hit the road. And my daughter said, Daddy, I don't want to come out of school.
Right.
So that killed that. All right, fine. That's good. She went back to school. So we walked away from that. And then God just began to use the kids ministering around town. I said, look, listen, y'all let God use you. And eventually, you know, whatever door God wants you to go through is going to happen. So they started ministering, man. I started taking them and just letting them play like what you ran into. And that's pretty much where they are now. But I don't, you know what, Mr. Morris? I don't have to say, y'all go practice, y'all play. I mean, they'll come home in the evening from school and they be practicing on their stuff and writing music, so they're motivated. It's a blessing, brother. It's just a blessing.
Okay. Well, as I was saying, I saw them out playing, and I was asking, could they come and take part? And like I said, your wife got back to me, and as part of the Gospel Teen Idol, you know, I was so happy because they were exactly what I was looking for. And you had a chance to watch it over the internet?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah,
I've seen it.
Okay, and for the people out there who, well, quickly tell me a little bit more about the band. Tell me
well, Higher Heights is that's what they call themselves, Higher Heights, and so what they're trying to do is go higher in God, and the Higher Heights name is representing what their aspirations and ambitions is, and basically they just love to play, Doc. They just love to minister. Now they are scheduled every weekend. They're somewhere playing. And so I had to invest in a travel set of drums and, you know, the instruments where they can travel with, and keep the rest of the instruments stable, because they was tearing up a lot to stuff by not properly packing it right, and, you know, so forth and so on. But I've been the kind of like, I've been their finance guy, and their mother has been the one that's really keeping them in check and making sure that they're doing the right thing, making sure that they dress appropriately. That's very important, you know, what kind of look they're giving off. And so I got to give her credit for all of those areas that, you know, she manages, you know, whenever they get little donations, she manages their little money and make sure they get a little piece and make sure they save some. So she got them all bank accounts and teaching them how to, you know, handle their business. And,
wow.
You know, so,
okay, well,
you know, I'm very proud of them.
Okay, well, let's see if we can take a look at them and see here.
Hi, are y'all ready to go to Higher Heights? Yeah! I know Zion took us there. I didn't think we could get no higher from Tajane to Leilani to Leonard to Zion, but we can go to higher heights. Oh, who's the talker? Who is the talker in the group? Who is the talker in the group? Somebody talk to me. Right here? Tell us about higher heights.
Well, we've been in a band for a pretty long time. A really long time.
How old are you? A really long time. What's good about being in a band? You know, I was in a band back when I was about your age. We called it Cassadines. Yeah, I got kicked out the band because I didn't want to listen to nobody. Okay, but you guys seem to be excited to be a band. What's good about being a band?
The fact that you can work together, choose songs, and be like, hey, I like this part, let's implement this, let's do that, and it sounds great.
All right, well, let's hear some of that great sound here. Higher heights.
All right. The Higher Heights Band. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, one of the mistakes, not a mistake, one of the things that I didn't do that I should have done was that the judges should have given each contestant feedback on their performance. That was supposed to happen. And in the midst of everything, I actually forgot to do that. But I was talking to France, and she gave me some audio, and she wanted to give you some feedback, give the kids some feedback if I can find it.
Well, I would love to hear it.
It's an audio clip. Let me see if I can play it. Okay, let's see. See if it'll come up. Let's see here. Let me do this. No. Let me do this and see if I can hear if we can hear it. No. Okay. I didn't get it. But basically the feedback that I got was this right here, was that they loved the band, but the drummer drowned them out.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
That was what it was.
And he was a little off too.
Right. And but the feedback, because we were talking, because I every time I do this, because in my mind I'm thinking who I think is first, second, third, place and all of it, and I never get it right, so I'm just sitting there, and so we were just talking, like a couple of days later, and I was like, oh man, I forgot to do the feedback. And then so we was kind of going over each act, or each person, or each band. And then she said, yeah, the Higher Heights Band was really good, but that drummer, man, he was just drowning them out. And the other judge was Devonda. And she said, man, you should have seen the look on her face, like, oh my God, and then she was even saying some of the people, I guess, who was with you was saying, bring it down, but that's basically what it was. It was just that he was drowning them out. And in her comment, which I thought I had, but she was just saying that in time he'll learn to understand the venue and to do,
make the adjustments.
Right.
And he was trying to be too busy down in the cut when he should have kept it simple.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was. But you absolutely right. He was playing. He was overpowering the vocals and the music and the guitars and stuff.
Right. You were saying something about there's some addition. You said violins. Or
well, yeah. Well, what we're trying to do is, I believe that the children have inspired other kids that they want to get involved in the music end and playing instruments in the house of the Lord. So we have 2 locations right now that we're ministering. We have one at 4305 Lenox in Washington Shores, and then we have the TV station on 3311 North Powers. And we got enough room there where they have an area where they can instruct other kids on how, to play the instruments, and they are instructing them as a band, not just individual instruments. And so what we hope to create is a lot of youth bands throughout Central Florida in different churches and wherever they're going to be playing. And I believe that will give a lot of young people another outlet rather than some of the outlets they have now, which may not be as positive as the parents want them to be. But if you know your kid is in a safe environment and learning how to minister.
Right. And that was really my next question that I wanted to ask you, because I'm trying to, how can I phrase it? I can, just from your conversation, I can tell that we kind of grew up in the same time, in the sense of the village. Because we had the village.
Yeah.
So, what is it like now working with kids in this day and time? I mean, people are people, and the challenges are always going to be there. But they are so influenced at such a younger age. They're dealing with stuff that we didn't have to deal with. It's just so much out there to influence them. It's when I think about being young, being raised as a young person these days, it would scare the heck out of me.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to relate to when I was their age. I'm going like, man, it is just so different to a point where you can't really even explain it to them the way they would understand.
Yeah.
They just wouldn't understand that their world is so different than the world that we grew up in, but yet it is the same. And to just, just to think about the people, as you and I could have a conversation, or I could have a conversation about 2 blocks over, the person knew who I was and had a relationship with my people, and so on and so forth. That same conversation, that if they saw me doing something wrong, they could say something to me.
Sure.
You know.
Sure.
And please don't let them go tell my mother or whoever that they saw me doing something wrong, because the mother is not going to go after them. The mother going to come after me. Yeah. So
exactly.
It was that kind of world, but it's different now, because if somebody says something to somebody's child, they're not going to go say something to the child. They're going to go, why are you talking to my child, and why you so that's the world we live in now. So my question to you is, for you understanding what I just said and the challenges that you face, what is it like for you, and what do you see some of the true challenges that you face nowadays?
Presently, the challenges I see, and I'll speak on spiritual and natural. When I was growing up, the only influence I had in my life was my mom, my dad, my school teacher,
right.
the pastor.
Right.
And they were the ones who influenced me.
Right.
And we was only allowed to watch so much TV at that time. So even the programming was wholesome for a family to sit down and watch.
Right.
And so with just those particular influences in my life, my choices of going in the wrong direction was limited.
Right, exactly.
But I have 10 kids. I got 8 girls and 2 boys.
Wow.
So what I see now is that electronic, that phone.
Right.
That's a bad thing for kids.
Right, exactly.
Because the accessibility to all types of information, and kids is going to go on that thing, man. And listen, that's we had to take electronics because pedophiles coming at the kids, pretending that they're other kids, and now in school, they give them laptops, even in the elementary school. And my kids, when they was in elementary, they gave them a Mac just like you got, and they had it home. So just think about a mind that's 8, 9, 10 years old, and you hand them a Mac,
right?
And they know how to go on and research. So now look at that influence.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They are seeing stuff, and then see some of that stuff is got some bad spirits behind it.
Definitely.
And so that's going to be an attack on their young mind. And man, listen, you're going to have to pray in order to keep them from going totally off the cliff. And so the challenges now I see is that cell phone is the enemy. That's the enemy right there, because you see what my daughter, I handed her the cell phone, you ain't heard nothing else from her, she gone over there.
Right.
So they can get on that thing, man, and they be in areas, and you be like, well, how did you find that out? Who told you that?
Right.
It's coming from that. So
I just had a conversation with my cousin. Over the period of time, I tell the story because I grew up as a jock, and I told you my mother was a serious sports fan, and that's how I got into sports. But it's the sports world and what it meant to me. And so my cousin, just about a month or two ago, was telling me that the daughter was playing. No, actually, you know what? They were here. No. Actually, it was. But I was just talking to him not about 2 months ago. But he was here over the summer, and so I missed him because they come here from Atlanta to play volleyball out at Disney, at the Wide World of Sports out there at Disney. So they have these volleyball tournaments, and so the daughter's a senior, and now she had these scouts coming from everywhere to watch her play volleyball. Now, the scouts is coming and saying to my cousin's daughter, well, we want to offer you a scholarship. Now, for you and I back in the day, if they came to us and said something like, well, we want to give you a scholarship to go play ball, we would be jumping through hoops.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I don't really know. And of course, my cousin is going like, oh my God, because we talking about free education, so that you don't have to pay for it. You know?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
But to her, because they are just so influenced by all these other things, where for us it was a priority, and was to where we put our energy into. Now they put their energy into so many things. So now the scouts are looking at you. Wait a minute, I got 3,000 other kids that I know that I wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation with. They would be like, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. But for the daughter, she's like, oh, well, maybe, I don't know. And I'm trying to think like she's thinking, and I can't do it. I'm like, what? This man gonna give you a free ride, and you gonna go and play a sport that you love, but they love it, but they really don't. They're like so many of my friends that I played ball with who have kids, who, like one of the guys, he said, man, my son was really good, but I couldn't get him to focus. He was a good ball player, but I can't get him to focus. Because guess what? They doing all these other stuff, with the phones and da-da-da, and all this other stuff where that was part of it.
Yeah.
Where our attention and how we hone our skills and what it meant to us. And we wasn't pouring our energy all into this other stuff because that's what it was to us. And it's so funny because I walked outside of my house because my place is in Winter Park. So I looked, and by the garbage, where you said the garbage was a electronic basketball game, and these kids looked like they were all into this electronic basketball game. And so I took a picture so I could put it on my Facebook and say, I don't get it.
Yeah. But it's got their attention, man.
But what I'm saying, like I give you an example of what I mean. During the hurricane, right? Walked around and I found a glove on the ground, after the hurricane. And I looked at the glove and I was like, oh man. And I tried to go back because a glove back in the day when you were a kid playing baseball and catch and all of this was just like, if somebody handed you a glove, that was like a precious gift. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this glove and it's wet, and I'm like, I'm going to, take it, dry it off and try and find it. I thought the kid that I can give it to. But then I'm like, if I give this to a kid, he probably going to say, I got this on my computer. Mm-hmm. And then I was telling my best friend about it, who I grew up with. And then he said, and you know what, Charles? If you give it to him, the first thing he's probably going to ask you is what brand it is. I'm like, you know what? You're probably right.
Yeah.
But if somebody had given me that glove, that would have been like gold to me, but that's the time, and that's how it is now. Yes. And I can't imagine some electronic game you playing to play basketball. Mm-hmm. Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, and
you playing basketball like this.
that television is a great influence on their minds. Their minds are so young. It hadn't developed to really make good choices, and so they're catching with this media stuff. They're catching them early on, and they corrupting a lot of kids. That's why you got You know,
But my whole point was because when I told you that I did the summit, because I grew up in media, so I've always understood media, advertising, marketing, and that standpoint, the commercial and them targeting you. That part I got. And then, you know, even making movies. Like when I'm watching a movie, I'm probably looking at the production and like trying to see, like I'm going and seeing the effect and looking at how did they do that, like, oh wow, that was great, you know, looking at the effects and all of that. So that was part of trying to get them to understand the marketing part of how you've been brainwashed and that whole sneaker thing, how you've been pimped, but they don't understand, you know, because they never understood, because back then, even to this day, I told them, like back then, because they were probably paying the average price of maybe 60, 70, 80 bucks for a pair of sneakers. And I told them, I said, I don't pay over $25 for a pair of sneakers. Yeah. So remember when I was saying that I used to go up to up to New York, like after Christmas? Yeah. I used to go up to Trenton, Jersey, go to Burlington Coat Factory. They would call Burlington Coat Factory in Trenton. Yeah. They would have these big sneaker sales. All those sneakers would be like $20, $25. And to this day, it's hard for me to pay over $30 for a pair of sneakers, because I don't get that. So I would go and buy maybe about like four or five pair of sneakers and get them for like $20, $25. I guess the normal price would be 60 or 70, but I would go to Burlington Coat Factory and get enough sneakers to last for like a couple of years, and I go back again, and you know. But that whole concept of how they don't understand how you're trying to say, I have to wear this and be part of this or have this to say I am somebody. And they just don't get that. And part of that whole marketing campaign and how they come at you, and you try to get them to understand that. But it's so important for them to attach themselves to these things in order for them to feel good about themselves.
Yeah. So it has to be designer. It has to be a designer name, or either they don't want to wear it.
Right.
You know, and that's a bad thing, because some of the kids that cannot afford it, you know, that's a bad thing on them, right? Because now they might be pressured to go and try to get money some other kind of way to be like other kids, you know. Right. But you know, we got our work cut out for us.
Well, yeah. One of the things that Haki Nkrumah says that I work with young fathers of Central Florida, and he works with fathers ages, one of them at least 12, his kid 12 years old, and he's a father. He ages up to like 25, 20, but he talks about how we have failed this generation, and we continue to do so we have to do better. But I want to invite you back so you can tell us more, and you can bring on some of the kids as well. But I just want to have you come on the show because I was so impressed by, you know, Miss Gordon, the kids. Just wanted to meet you because understanding the challenges. Anybody that work with kids, and you just said you got 10 of them in addition to. So the fact that you have the patience and just the spirit to do what you do, I said, please, I want you to come on and meet you and just say God bless you and thank you for what you're doing. You know?
It's spiritual warfare, brother, and I tell any parent now, you got to pray hard for your children based on what they are exposed to. Mm-hmm. And that to me is the hardest part, is covering them spiritually.
Right. Well,
you know,
the thing that they don't understand is that it's not a you and I thing. They don't understand that it's a spiritual battle. Yeah. They don't understand the attack that they're under. And when you don't understand that part, and when you don't understand they think that it's just words about putting your armor on. And when you don't understand that it's easy for us to go at each other, because nobody's going to win that fight. The person that's going to win is the spirit that is causing it. Mm-hmm. But when you don't understand the spiritual fight and the true spirit in which you're dealing in, and you don't understand that, you're not dealing with what's truly going on. because I see you, and I see you got a bad attitude or whatever attitude that is. So I want to deal with you, you know. But you don't understand the people. Most of us don't understand. It's a spiritual battle.
It is.
And we just don't get that, you know.
And I'll say this briefly. When the president got into office, the first thing he did was reverse the privatization of prisons. Obama had stopped it, but he put it back into play. The second thing he did was order the AG to send out letters all over the country and tell all the AGs, give them the maximum. And so we are targeted for profit for the prison system. That's been laid out as a systematic thing that they got in place. And so when I seen that happening, I said, you know, as a man and as an African American, knowing that my younger brothers is being targeted to pipeline into prison for profit, we got to get busy to try to resist that and push back against that and educate these young boys and girls as much as we possibly can. Don't fall into the trap of that pipeline that they got set up for you to suck you in and give you all that time.
Yeah, because once you in, it's hard to get out.
You're done.
Right.
They're gonna put that felony on you. You can't vote no more. You can't even be an executor of a will. You just a number walking around. And so we got to get busy with that. I know you probably got other convictions other than that, but my conviction is in that area. And my ultimate goal, and I'm working on it right now, is to create a vocational technical high school, because I know a lot of young brothers don't have the high school education, but they're gifted. And so if we can get them with a skill where they can go into business for themselves, even if they got a felony, you still can do business for yourself.
Right, exactly.
And you can help your other brothers. So that's our goal. And I want to say thank you so much, Mr. Morris, for sitting down and taking time to talk with us. And we really do appreciate that. I want you to know that.
Well, thank you for what you're doing, and really appreciate it. And you have no idea how wonderful it is to talk with someone who understands that we're more spiritual than we are physical. A lot of us don't understand that, and a lot of us are so into the world, and our value system is that in which, again, we identify ourselves not from the spirit in which who we are, but it's in the spirit of how much money I can spend. Mm-hmm. And so somehow or another we don't think about the other part, the eternity part, you know, what's going to happen when you're not part of this world. And I don't know how you don't.
The signs is there.
All right, I know.
The signs is there.
I don't know how you don't. You know, this is just a small time. You know, but when you think about forever, you're like, really? Oh, okay, all right. But I want to thank you, and please tell Ms. Gordon I said thank her so very much. It was funny because I said, you know, your husband is scheduled to come on the show, and she kind of like, really? I said, yeah. And I said, supposed to bring some kids. Really? Oh, okay. So you know that's my job, right? I said okay.
It is. It is. It's her job.
I said okay. So, but I want to thank you so very much. I'm definitely going to reach out to the both of you coming up for the next Gospel Teen Idol, and hope that you can make it this time.
We really appreciate
and then,
that.
Not that anything is any better, but France did say, one of the judges said that she, because of the drowning of the drums, she said, man, I would have loved to heard the little keyboard is just by herself, because she was just over there doing a little thing, and she said, but she should have entered by herself as well, as you know. Like I said, yeah, because man, he was driving me crazy. Not that he wasn't good, he was just so loud. That's what she was saying. He was just so loud, you know. And I've been knowing him, by the way.
Aaron?
Yeah. I've been knowing him from Lady D.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
he used to go out to the radio station with
right,
her.
right. When I used to do her show called Young People's Forum.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I was the one that used to produce her show.
Is that right?
Yeah. I used to do the video, the show when it was on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to one that used to do it. And I used to host it sometime for her when she wasn't available.
Awesome. Where's she at now?
Well, she's still doing the radio show, but
Is she?
she was just when I went to go on the show, and he was there, and then they were talking about it. Then he didn't know that he was coming on. I mean, he didn't know that he was part of the Gospel Teen Idol because he said, "Oh, I'm going to go and find him." And then I said, "Do you know Miss Gordon?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, you coming on?" And he's like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
But yeah, she's still doing the radio part.
Oh, is she? Okay.
But she's thinking about going back and doing the TV show
Okay.
as well. So that should be coming up sometime soon.
We got to get on there. The positive black people, we got to get on TV. We got to get on that platform, and we got to start speaking positive stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they whacked Roland Martin, and he was a great voice out there, man, speaking truth. Because, you know, their news is slanted the way they want it slanted.
Oh, yeah.
But we got to give it to the people the way it is, and so that's my conviction. But she needs to get on TV. You need to, man, speak, man, get on there, man, and tell that truth, man.
Hey, you know what? Yeah. Well, the thing is that actually, the venue of the internet and just getting the word out, like now, even though we're on Twitter and we're on Periscope, Facebook, and so on. It's just a matter of just letting people know. And if you ever want to come on the show, if there's anything that you want to cover, anything you want to talk about, hey, you got my number.
Appreciate it.
And you can come on anytime.
Appreciate it.
Anytime. So I want to thank you so very much for taking the time.
Thank you
out.
as well.
All right. I want to thank you as well for taking the time out to hang out with us. And hopefully that we will see Mr. Gordon and Miss Gordon at the Gospel Teen Idol. They probably bring about 500 kids. That would be great. Very talented group. And I really enjoyed them. And hopefully that they will be part of the Gospel Teen Idol next year. And hopefully that Mr. Gordon will be back as well. I'm Charles Morris. Enjoy the rest of your week.